Good evening, everyone. Most welcome to this week's episode of the EL Weekly TBD, popularly hosted by Precious Olawale. And she won't be around today, but I'll be standing in the gap. My name is Olamide Popola, and I'm the team lead, creative director at Everything Literature. And today we have a very special person joining us on this session. So in person of Mrs. Kemi Adenuga. So briefly, let me just read the bio of Mrs. Kemi Adenuga. She is a seasoned English language and literature teacher with a passion for inspiring her students to excel academically through creative teaching methods. In addition to love for teaching, she enjoys writing with a special interest in poetry. Our primary focus is in English language, in phonetics, particularly transcription. So please join me as we welcome Mrs. Kemi Adenuga to take us on the session, Bridging the Academic Gap in Secondary Schools, Uplifting both high and low achievers. Mrs. Kemi, you're most welcome. Let us get to hear from you, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Popola. It's so nice to be here. Good evening, everyone, and I welcome you to this week's CBD, as usual. So just a short introduction has been done already, so I don't need to really go into that anymore. My name is Kemi Adenuga, as you rightly said, and I'm a teacher at Christ the King Catholic College, Odolewu Ijebu in Ogun State. So the topic before us today is bridging the achievement gap in secondary schools, uplifting both high and low achievers. So before I move forward in telling us about the terms, I just want to do an overview of what we are looking at really, because we are all concerned. So far you are an educator, you are concerned with bridging the gap between high and low learners, because there will always be gap. Just like fingers are not equal, so you can't expect that all the students you have in your class will be A-star students. So how do you now bridge the gap to ensure that they are all at least on the same page? Even if they are not all A-star students, at least to something very close to that, so that we will not experience any form of failure or what we refer to as low achievers. So the importance of bridging the gap cannot be overemphasized, because the impact is on educational equity. That means that learners should be, that there should be at least some form of equity in terms of their performance. And on the part of the school as well, the secondary schools, they want good results, especially for external examinations, because they want to use that as an avenue to get more students into the school. So there's no school, I don't think there's a school that will appreciate staggered results in whatever form. So it is important for us to be able to bridge the gap between these two achievers or learners, so to say. So the approach to this is multifaceted, if I'm to say that, and it starts with looking at the root causes. What are the root causes? Implementing targeted interventions and all of that. And those are all the things that we'll be looking at. Let's quickly move to the objectives. What the objectives of this particular session now? Firstly, we'll be looking at identifying factors that contribute to achievement gap. What are the factors that contribute to this gap, achievement gap we are talking about? Because if we don't know the root cause, there's no way we will be able to know the solutions or the strategies to mitigate this approach. Then we are going to explore the effective strategies for bridging the gap. And lastly, we'll propose what are the actionable solutions that we can put in place as educators to ensure that all our learners are on the same page, they are on the winning side. We don't have students on the D side, students or not even on the failure side at all. Okay, so that's basically our objective. So I'll be moving on to understanding achievement gap itself. What is achievement gap itself? Achievement gap refers to the difference, the disparity in academic performance between different groups of students, the disparity in academic performance between different groups of students. often due to probably socioeconomic factor, educational disparity, psychological factor, or cultural influences. So these are the different causes that I'll be looking at. So I'll be picking it one after the other. I'm going to start with socio-economic factor. What do we mean by this? Situation where we have limited access to resources. I'm still on socio-economic factor. Limited access to resources in terms of resources to use in school, in terms of external materials and aids, things like that. That can cause a factor in while students will not meet up as expected. Okay? Then unstable home front, unstable environment. A child from a broken home, for instance, that the home is not really a good place to go back to. A child with parents that do fight all the time, or issues, or a child that is not loved at home. Maybe, or a child that is overloaded with chores at home, doesn't have time to read or study. Child with different issues. These students, they have so many things going on in their minds that sometimes we do not know. We just come to class. And one thing about secondary school is that it's back-to-back learning. Before you know it, another teacher is in. Before you know it, the note on the board is dropped off. Another teacher is in. Especially for schools that are not using tabs or digitized material to learn. It's back-to-back. And in situation like that, a child that is going through emotional issues from the home front might not be able to meet up to standard. And inadequate parental support as well. When parent does not support as and when due, parents that do not really care, especially when a parent is not that educated, when does not really care in terms of what you learn in school, there's no support, nobody's checking your books, nobody's checking what you're doing, things like that. It is another factor. So how do we tackle this? We are going to look at that later. Let's move quickly to psychological factor, which is the second one on the lower part of the slide. We have lower self-efficiency or lower self-esteem. A student that does not believe in him or herself. Maybe a child that the mother or the father or people around him or her always say that you are never do well, there's nothing you're going to achieve, there's no encouragement. So that has led to low self-esteem or low self-efficacy in the child. So that can also be another factor. Then we have a reduced motivation, which is very close to the one above. Some parents believe that a child must always score 100. No matter, once you score like maybe 90 or maybe 95, okay, they'll be asking, what about those that score 100? Do you have two heads? No form of motivation at all. Okay, you've done this, you can try better. Why need to score 100? What can we do? Things like that. When a child is going through this psychological problem, that can cause that can cause a low performance as well, and not making the child to meet up as expected. The different learning style, this is very important, and this has to do with the teachers. Different learning style. We have diverse students in our class. We have low learners, we have fast learners, fast-paced learners. We have learners that they have low or very short attention span. Let me put it that way. That once 5 minutes they switch off. They are just staring at you like this as you're teaching in front, but they are not listening. They are just hearing, because there's a difference between listening and hearing. So in a situation like that, what do we do? That's another factor. We're going to look at the solution to that later. So we have different learning styles. We have students that they learn through visual. We have students that they learn this hand-on skill, kinesthetic learners. We have problem-solving skill learners. We have different type of learners. So how do we handle all of this? Because this can also be factor. We have students that they learn with music. They can easily, like all those performance that we have on the EL platform, the poetry. It's quite interesting. The way they infuse music into learning. Some students learn faster that way. Some students learn through read and write. We have different learning style. So that can also, so when a teacher doesn't know how to blend all these diverse learning style together, and so a child is lost. That can also be a factor. So I move on to educational disparity, which is another set of factors. We have variation in teaching quality, a situation whereby this mostly happens in private schools, whereby they change teachers back to back. Particularly if this child did not resume with them, they have already employed another one. Different teaching quality. A teacher comes in, they have different style or technique of teaching. A child is already, used to a particular teaching style of a teacher, and within weeks, another teacher is already there using another method. A child that's not conversant might have issues trying to blend and fitting into class, and that can make the child not to meet up to standard or as expected. So another one is curriculum access. The curriculum that we use in schools, we have different curriculums. When a child is in a particular school, the child is changed to another school, the child faces another curriculum, maybe a topic that he has done the previous term or they have not even treated at all, or doesn't have a foundation in that particular topic. That might be a problem as well. Then we have school resources. Schools without resources, enough adequate resources. Learning now is digitized. That is no news. A school that is not technologically advanced will have issues. That is why you see most parents prefer to even take loans to take their words to private schools, because they know that they are going to enjoy school resources over there that you will not see mostly in public schools. Their labs are not equipped. You're teaching a student how to mix chemicals where there are no chemicals. You're just teaching the theoretical aspect of it, and you're not showing the students the practical aspect of it. Such children will get lost. A child that does not have access to audiovisual aids, you're just teaching them that a plane can fly this way, fly that way. So there's no way they will be able to meet up with learning to that degree. So the last point is cultural influences, differences in cultural capital and varied expectations. We have different cultural backgrounds with this. In your class, you have children from northern side, and they are from different homes, different beliefs. So this can also affect learning as well. They have different diverse backgrounds on how they visualize things, on how the perspective in which they view things. So this can also affect their learning ability to meet up. So having spoken about all the issues, all the factors, all the causes or the reasons that might cause the bridge, the gap, this achievement gap that we're talking about between the high learners and the low learners. It is important to look at what are the strategies, because we know the problems now. What are now the strategies? That's the most important part of this session. How do we now bridge this gap? How do we come in as educators? How do we come in to bridge all these gaps that we've mentioned, social, economic, cultural, lack of resources and all of that? Now I'm starting with differentiated instruction. That's the first one, differentiated instruction. So we look at our tailoring teaching methods. We tailor our teaching method to suit in these diverse teaching learners rather. Our teaching methods must be where a teacher should not be tired. Oh, I have tried playway method, it didn't work. I have tried this, it did not work. Let me give a very good example. There is a student in my class, SS2 literature. So he failed literature again. He only passed first term last session. He failed second term, he failed third term. So he had to come for receipt. And he was moving, and he had to move to SS3. So my school usually do receipts like a second chance for a student to try it again before they consider you for promotion. And he came to meet me and he told me, Mr. Adenuga, it's only literature that I fail. If you check my other subjects, I don't fail. I'm not that bad. But I've noticed that it's the literature that is my problem. So when we have proper classes for them before receipt, that really pained me so much, that how can a student fail only my subject, as in only my, out of all the nine or 10 subjects, it's only my fourth subject that is making him to come back for a state. I had to go and check the script. I told you to bring the script, the previous one, even the one I marked out him, I checked to see the problem. And by the time we started the proper class, I changed my teaching methodology and he passed. I told him today, you did so well. And he was impressed. I even showed him because I changed so a teacher should not be rigid. Differentiated instruction is important. We use formative assessment, ongoing feedback. It's not a case of summative feedback at the end of the day, but the part no, it's ongoing feedback back to back. When you have done with this lesson, you evaluate. When you are done with that lessons, you evaluate. And we observe too. You observe the students in your class. Okay, this particular child, it seems is visual learner. This particular child it seems it's kinesthetic learner. This particular child, it seems it is this. And we try to infuse all these learning patterns into our teaching so that they can all pick their sides and we are all on the same page. We are all achieving purpose. We are all achieving success. It's not a case of some students are passing while some are on the mid or average level while some are below average. There's a slogan that we normally say. We say, no student must be left behind. No student must be left behind. Everybody must be carried along. I always tell them, so you carry all your students along. Everybody in my class, everybody must talk. Even if you're 30, I involve everyone because I know all of them by name. By second week, I already know your names. Even if I don't know your name, your particular name, there's a way I will just approach you before I learn your name, and definitely you'll be involved. So everybody must be carried along. So formative assessment, differentiated instruction, tailoring our teaching methods to accommodate diverse learners. So moving on to the next one, which is targeted interventions. Targeted interventions. You have a particular child, like that boy that I spoke about now. I did more of targeted intervention for him, even after changing my teaching methodology. I targeted is as in what is exactly is the problem. So you can give additional support after school tutoring. I know some schools do that. After school tutoring, mentoring programs, that's very important. I guess was it last session or so, we stopped it now in my school. We usually do this mentoring whereby a particular child, a particular teacher rather, he serves as a mentor to some mentees. So you can have about 4 or 5. So some students are attached to you. So you mentor them. Though you don't teach all the subjects, but of course you just ask them, you mentor them. It has a way of giving them self-confidence. When you keep asking them how they are doing, you encourage them to do better. You are on their neck to make sure that you do well. So targeted intervention is important. Personalized learning style as well, or plan for students. I mentioned after school mentoring, so that we can provide that as well if there is avenue for that. It's not in all schools or in all situations whereby you can actually do that, but in a situation where you can do that, stay after school, or you can come during weekends, or if it's going to be online teaching, just to do our own bit or our own bits rather, to ensure that we make sure that they are up to date. We can also give assignments as well. The assignment I give to my students is not the one you can copy. It's always application question. You go and think. We can do this there's no subject that doesn't have an application question. So all we need to do, and in this era of AI now, you can easily just get application question from AI, or you can think about it. Just make sure that, by the time a child sits to do assignment back to back, that's a form of learning, and it can help a child to meet up to where we want him or her to be. So the third one, the third strategy to bridging the gap is equitable resource allocation. And this has to do with investing in technology. We might not be able to do much as individual teachers in this particular one that I just mentioned now, resource allocation, but we can improvise. Most of us, we have laptops, we have Android phones. In a smaller size class, we can use our phones to show them YouTube videos, pictures, images, diagrams, and what have you, pictures like that. It will aid learning because we can show them like literature now. Um, we have movies. We have movies. The previous, this particular set now, those in SS2 now and SS3, the text they are using, at least we have Woodry Night, the movie is on YouTube. We have, what is it called, Fences. We have even Midsummer Night's Dream. We have Look Back in Anger. They are all in movies. We can show them because, of course, what they see, it sticks more. They keep remembering. So we can actually show them, we can improvise. We don't have to wait for the management to get us. You have to get off this. For English language, if you're teaching phonetics, it's not out of place to have that small Bluetooth speaker. You bring it to class, you ensure that some students will easily just understand how to place stress in a word. Or students will easily understand how to pronounce a particular word. But some don't, and you want them to meet up. So you bring Bluetooth speaker to class, you connect it to your phone, you let them hear the how it sounds. So it will help them as well. We can use live characters. So I'm just talking about improvisation now because investing in technology might not be applicable to all schools. We might not have that avenue we might not have the resources, the learning materials, but we can improvise. Use of live characters. For instance, you want to teach preposition. You don't even need any audiovisual, blah, 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 digitized material for that. You can place the student behind the door, at the front of the door, beside the door to teach preposition. You already, as you okay, where is this boy standing? Beside the door. The boy is standing behind the door, at the front of the door. You've already taught preposition. You can use different items in class to teach that. You want to teach noun. You tell them to write all the things in the class. What can they see in the class? And they all list it out. We can make the class fun. We can dramatize. So we can use all of these resources around us, spending the time that we will have all this technology, advanced equipment or aids in our classrooms. And for those of us that are already using interactive boards in classroom, that's even much better. You have access to all of that, so it's much better. So it makes learning easy. So the fourth one is professional development for educators. There are some schools that of course, they invest in their teachers. They do seminar, they bring people in, professionals to teach them on how to incorporate diverse learners in their teaching methodology. They have all this first-hand experience, but some don't. So what do? We can go on personal training ourselves. We don't have to wait for it. Whatever you learn is for your own good. You don't have to wait for the school or the management to say, okay, it's when we bring seminar to you. No, you can go on YouTube. You can learn. If you are passionate about the job, you have some students in your class that are not meeting up to standard, and you are in a school where they'll keep telling you it's teacher's error. Like my own school, they will keep telling you the teacher's fault. They are not doing well. They are the one. They are the one not doing well. They are not doing enough. They are not. So and you want to do more than enough. Not even to get awards or reward or whatever. It's just for you. You have the passion for those children and you want them to do well academically. So you can go for training on your own, get the certificate. Is your name on it? You are the owner. You are establishing, you are building yourself, you are building your career. You can go on YouTube to watch how you can help in this particular, you can learn, or call on another person that is good in that field to come and assist. So that, because it is all for the good of the students and the school as the whole, then we can involve the family and the school. Sometimes when I have a difficult student like that, that is so difficult for me to penetrate, I involve the school. There's a process. You can involve your HOD, involve the vice principal academics, you can involve the school, involve the parents. What's going on? Some students, just like I said earlier, they are experiencing some difficulties at home that is infringing on their learning ability in school. And you do not know. you feel that you are doing all your best. But if you not know all those things that they are going that is going on in their heads from home, you might not be able to penetrate such a child. So it's better to involve them. You've tried all your best and you keep trying and you involve those that matter so that there can be round discussion on a child and there will be improvement. Some students don't forget their teachers. Years to come, they don't because of the impact that that teacher has left behind, which is indelible. So the next one is fostering a growth mindset, encouraging them. You can do it. You can do better. You can achieve it. Giving them little effort, give them thumbs up, little effort, buy them something. It can be little. Sometimes I'm sorry, I'm just making example with my school because that's what I'm quite familiar with, so that I can make it practicable as much as possible. We give awards for anything during the prize giving awards. You get awards of most active student in class. It doesn't have to be best in English, best in mathematics. No. Students that are coming, maybe most improved students, we give awards. You see teachers giving awards, different awards, naming in different things. Just bring your gift, we wrap it for you. Those in charge will do that. And the students will be given, calling the student house while the parents are seated there, it does something to that child's development, and the child will want to improve the more because it wants to be called next session. So fostering growth development in a child, you can positive classroom environment, making sure that the child matters, that every child in that class is important. You're telling them, so even a child is feeling that I don't know it, I'm not good, but you are telling the child that no, you are not a dull person, you can achieve it, you can do this. That can also work as well. So those are the strategies for bridging the gap. So moving on to mitigation strategies that involve stakeholders. Okay, importance of mentorship. I guess I've mentioned that earlier with mentorship. So it's important for us to be good mentors to our. If you don't have a mentorship program in your school, you can you can start one in your subject with students that are not doing so well, trying to mentor them, probably during break, or if you stay in school, probably during weekends, and to mentor them. So moving on to challenges and consideration, all the things that I've mentioned earlier now that has to do with strategies of bridging the gap between low achievers and high achievers. They are not all perfect. There are some challenges to all those things as well, that we are looking at that. But before we look at that, let's look at the mitigation strategies. The first one is engaging the stakeholders in the change process. I've mentioned that earlier. They must be involved. They must be involved so that they know that you are doing your own bit. So you are not just struggling alone. You involve them in the process. Seek additional funding and partnership for the some materials that you might need. For instance, now I for my own school, I've asked them that I need all the stickers, this smiley emoji stickers. So once a student performs good in a particular maybe class exercise, I put the sticker. I know they use it in some primary schools. I want to adopt this them. I've told them. So I will need funds because I need to buy those things, and they are the ones to buy them for me. So you involve them when you need funding or partnership. There's another one you can do. Let me use literature as an example. You take students to maybe art department in university. They normally do a lot of stage performance. So that needs funding as well and partnership. So you write the institution, you bring in literature students to school, you want them to watch stage performance. So they know what dramatic technique is. You are not just teaching it in class. This is prop, this is stage direction. So they are seeing it hands on, and they are experiencing it. So it sticks more. Then they are regularly evaluating and adjusting strategies based on feedback and outcomes. This is very important. This is very important. What I call formative assessment. So you're already doing what you're doing, and you're evaluating because you want to see if what you're doing is actually working. and you evaluate the students. You say that, okay, and you compare the performance. If there's a progressive performance, then you know that what you're doing is working. If the performance is progressive, then you know that maybe you need to do one or two things to change and ensure that everything you're doing works. Okay, then moving on to challenges and concentration. I said it earlier that everything that we've mentioned earlier concerning the strategies for bridging the gap, they all have their own challenges and consideration. The first one is resistance to change among staff. Resistance to change. Some teachers are not ready to change. Likewise, the management too. Some they just go and all they are concerned about is the money. Just go and just keep doing what you're doing. Don't worry, the child will change later. So when you approach them that these are the things that you want to do and they are not budged, they are not coming forth, it becomes a problem. So that's a challenge. Or you are HOD of your department, or you will talk to your colleagues that, okay, maybe you're sharing the class together. Okay, let's do it this way. And the person is not willing to change. So that can be a challenge. Then limited funding and resources. We want to buy this, want to buy sticker. There's no money now, please. Maybe just keep doing what you're doing. When there's money, we will give you. So limited funding too can be a challenge. The diverse needs that may be difficult to address with one size fits all approach. Learning is not one size fits all approach. So these diverse needs at times it might be difficult, especially when you have limited time constraint. You have 40 minutes to teach and you have to achieve all of this. But all in all, we still have to try our best to ensure that we do the much we can do so that these students can achieve success. Because I believe that I'm concluding now. I believe that the joy of every teacher is when all your students are doing well, they are successful. It's always whenever we are analyzing results, WAEC results or IGCSE results among the teachers, and they call your subject and you hear distinction 100%, this 100%, you're always happy. It means that what you're doing is actually working. That is when you are proud to be a teacher. So we should keep doing what we are doing, and we improve on it so that all our students can be on the same page. It is achievable that you have students in your class that are no failing. It is achievable. It's achievable to have 100% distinction. The decision might not be or the same, the exact the same. It might not be a star. It might not, but at least decision is distinction. So it is important for us to keep doing what we are doing. It's to keep fostering growth development, to keep looking for resources to help us to keep on learning about the diverse learning styles of our students so that we can help them to meet up to standard. So I'm done with basically the topic itself. So the question I have for us, because I know that we have our own contribution as well before the anchor, before it comes in. So the question that I want us to ruminate on is, as teachers, because I want to learn from us as well, because this has been a challenge. As teachers, we have different roles. Sometimes we are teachers, subject teachers in our classroom. Sometimes we do home lessons for those of us that do home lessons. Okay. As a subject teacher now, you have students in your class that engage in home lessons. And for instance, let's say English language or mathematics, or let's stick to English language since we are in humanities. And a teacher teaches with maybe teaches that particular student with another style, or teaches something that is a bit different from what you know or what you are used to. Maybe gives another rule entirely that messes up the child's brain, and that comes to class, experiences your own teaching for that same topic, and it's quite different from what the lesson teacher has told him or her the previous day. And this is causing confusion. So how do we now bridge that gap? But that's the only one I have not addressed in our teaching. So I want our contribution on this so that I can learn from us as well. So that's basically it from my side. Thank you, Mr. Popola.
Oh, thank you very much, Mrs. Adenuga. I really appreciate such an insightful session with you. Okay, and we'll be trying up the question to the house in terms of, I guess the question relates to you making use of a kind of a teaching methodology while the teacher in school or the home lesson teacher makes use of another teaching methodology. So how do you achieve a synergy without getting the learner
Synergy,
confused, right?
that's the word.
Okay.
Yes. So
Okay,
that the
so
child will not be confused.
yeah, Mr. Rorade, Mr. Bada, Mrs. Comfort, Mr. Richie, Ms. Sharon, do we have anyone who wants to contribute to that? The floor is open for us, please, before we get to ask our questions. Anyone? We are muted in case maybe we are speaking and we can't hear you. You are speaking right now and you're muted. So you need to unmute yourself, please.
All right. Hi, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Richie.
Sorry, I joined late.
Yeah.
I got towards the end of the slide. But this question, I think it falls down to asking leading questions. So that one, just like this kind of test to give to students to know their level. Forgotten the name right now. But just asking leading questions to know what method the teacher, the home lesson has used so that you can take over from or continue from where the home lesson left off. I think that's it basically for me, asking leading questions from the students or giving tests.
Asking, what kind of question did you call it, please?
Leading questions, questions that will generate that'll make them express
Responses
Okay.
responses from the
from the
students.
students.
Yeah.
Okay, so that you can better understand the methodology adopted by.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other contribution? Thank you so much, Mr. Richie. Any other contribution, please? Mr. Arorade, do you have something to say? You're muted.
All right. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening, Mr.
Thank you very much for, let me call it blessing us all the way. I want to understand that question properly. I seem not to understand the question.
Okay, so Mr. Daniel, you are a teacher of my child in your school, and by the time my child comes home, I want to engage my child further. You get now? So I employed Mr. Richie to engage my child at home. So your own teaching methodology in teaching my child in school, it's quite different. And when Mr. Richie is engaging my child at home, he seemed not to understand the teaching methodology you've adopted so that he can know how to continue as a home tutor. So how can you come in? So by the time my child comes back to school the following day, how do you continue from where Mr. Richie, the home tutor, stop? Without getting the child confused.
Without getting the teacher confused.
No, the learner, the child.
The learner confused. Okay, the learner confused. Okay.
Yes.
Well, during the presentation, thank you so much, Mrs. Okunuga. Am I correct? Okay, Adenuga, Mrs. Adenuga. Yes, thank you very much. I think I heard her mention parent collaboration, teacher-parent collaboration, and I think that is key. That's a very, very important factor. Unfortunately, it's challenging in a setting where you have hundreds of students and you want to know all parents. It can be challenging, honestly, because some parents even have that nonchalance to never visit the students in school or even visit the school for any reason. Yes. And I think it is high time we begin to take active steps to nudge the administration, the school administration, to let them see the importance of teacher-parent collaboration. Sometimes they have a parent-teachers meeting and it will just be the administration with the parents and the teachers are there in class. I don't think it should be so. Now, but that's by the way. I feel that when the parents and teachers discuss or have a tete-a-tete on things that that, or should I say, other measures that the parent have taken to help the students, the teacher knows what's going on at home. The teacher can help by either going ahead on that thing that works for the child, whether it's the teacher in the school or the teacher at home. There needs to be a connection, and only the parent can bridge that gap. The parent allows the teacher at home to know what the teacher in school does, and the parent also allows the teacher in school to know what the teacher at home does. So whoever is at a fix of knowing exactly what to do gets an information. It's just, I think the parent is the middleman that needs to do this job. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Daniel. We're really pressed against time, and I would want us to take one or two questions. So I noticed Sharon raised her hands earlier. I don't know if she still has a question, but let's quickly have Mrs. CJ Comfort come in. You have a floor, ma'am. Mrs. CJ.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Popola. And I want to commend Mrs. Adenuga, if I'm correct about the name, for what she's done this evening. I want to ask a question. When you were talking, you said that the cultural background of a child can affect the learning experience. However, I discovered that you did not tell us how can that cultural, background affect. Please shed more light on that.
Okay, ma'am. Can I answer? Or maybe
Sure.
We'll take all the questions. Thank you.
Yes, Sharon, please. Miss Sharon, do you have your question now? You can unmute. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening,
Yeah,
ma'am.
good evening.
My name is Sharon. So, my question goes to us. I wanted to ask, yes. So I wanted to ask on concerning learning styles, learners and their learning styles. Is it really a static learning style for each learner? Because it has been proven time and time again that being practical about your about learning makes it easier for knowledge to stick. So I'm trying to use, and I know that things that can make it practical and make it learnable include audio, visuals, and also doing it yourself. So is there really a static learning style for each learner, or you can use, or okay, how I put it, or there is the most efficient one for all learners? I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, your
Yes, I
question is
do.
well understood. Okay. I believe you get the question, Mrs. Adenuga.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
There is
that's the
that a
question.
static learning style for a child,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Okay. So let me start with the
Yes,
cultural.
yeah.
Let me start with the cultural background, how that affects bridging the gap. For though that's a bit minor, but it doesn't mean that it does not have its own effects on children. A child that is, for instance, a child that maybe is Yoruba, that happens to find him or herself in environments where is mostly maybe in the northern part or the eastern part, is not used to that environment. Maybe they moved or something like that. Is not used to, and feels off some sort. It is the role of the teacher to ensure that there's inclusive learning, that child is comes into and blends in with that environment. It happens to transfer students as well. maybe I can use that as an example. A child that's not maybe transferred from another school feels off and doesn't want to blend with others. So a child with different cultural background like that, mostly we have few of that happening because when you are in a school in southwestern here, they are mostly Yorubas, and you have mostly Yorubas in your school, or maybe of course you have few of Igbo, or like you most likely will not have a northerner. So in a situation like that, how do you now ensure that that child blends in that environment and feels important even though he's not from that environment? Though he's minor, but it has his own role to play. That's his own role, making sure that the child blends and the child seems and the child feels important. Like this Japa syndrome that is happening now, most of the blacks that are in UK and US, this will happen to them. How will the teacher over there ensure that they do not feel out of place in an environment that's white dominated? So that can also happen here as well. So I don't know if you understand my point, though it's minor, but that's why I put it at the last point, but it has its own role to play, that the teacher should ensure that the child fits in if that place is not his cultural background or environment that he or she is used to. So talking about the different learning style now, a child is different. A child might love to learn through visual and audio visual. A child might be a child that is that loves to learn through hands-on skill. That is kinesthetic now. Of course, we love visual because it has to do with our five senses. So it's not static to a particular learning need or style. No, no. You can have a blend. That is why it is important to blend all in your teaching. If you're teaching part of speech and you can make all now adjectives and all that, you can turn it into a rap or song, do that. If you can make it acronym, do that. That's two learning style, you're blending into one. So different, if you can make it problem solving skill, that's another learning need, a learning style for another child. So what I'm saying specifically about that is that as a teacher you must learn about this. If it's playway method that you want to teach them, maybe vocabulary on a particular thing now, maybe for instance, maybe on building and construction, and you decide to dress like a surveyor to class, just to see that this is a surveyor, this is his role in building. You dress like that surveyor, role playing, you know you just make sure that you involve all these learning strategies in your teaching, so that a child that learns through music is picking his own. Even if you're not going to do it for all your lessons, make sure that you infuse it in most of your lessons, here, little there, so that the children, or the students rather, the learners, they're learning, they are picking, they are looking forward to your class, because it's always fun filled. It's not a class you come in, you just face the board. Our topic today is preposition. You write it. Preposition is relationship between this, and you just keep dishing it out, and they are like this looking at you. But when you come in and your first approach is, you come, stand here, you stand here. What is the position of this person? They are already, they're already conscious of what you're doing. They are alert. They want to, they are suspense field already. They want to know. You've not even written the topic on the board at all. You understand? So try, it is not static. It is not. A child might love to learn visually and through music. For some, it can be through skills. For some, it can be it can be a blend of one or two or three. So one thing as a learner is that we should be able to infuse all of those learning styles, or some, if we cannot do all, into our learning, depending on the topic that you're going to take. That is also important as well, because not all these learning styles is applicable. Not all these learning styles are applicable to the topics that we teach in class. I hope I have.
Yeah, big time, Mrs. Adenuga. And I want to believe the questions asked by Mrs. CJ and Miss Sharon has been properly dealt with. I really can't thank you, because in all honesty, I enjoyed listening. I was enjoying this session, and
Yes, thank you.
what do you say, Sharon? Okay, I guess that was a network. So thank you so much, Mrs. Adenuga. We're really pressed against time. We really want to appreciate everyone who has joined us. And this is the beauty of we having this theme-based discussion from time to time, so that by the time fellow educators get to listen to it, because most of the sessions I get to replay them over and over again. Session held by Mr. Arowarade, Mrs. Yale, and everyone. Even this session, am definitely going to listen to it over and over again. And I really want to encourage every one of us to share with our network, other people around us. And time wouldn't permit us to take any other question for now because we're really pressed against time. So for on the EL network, we have programs being held. On Mondays, it's the plan, ask, and share, which we encourage educators to share their plans, ask any question, and also share their tips, practical tips on how it can help others get through the day or through the week. On Tuesday, it's the trivial and teaching tips. And on Wednesday, we have the EL TBD, just as we're having it right now. On Thursdays, the peer review and feedback, where we just get to share our works, poems, drama, prose, short stories, or whatever it may be, and people get to react to it. On Friday, we have the virtual reading club, of which we've been doing. It goes beyond the normal literary text, just some extra, how should I put it, extra educational text that we can study. And on Saturday, we have virtual chat, which is if I were to be the minister for. It has not really been active for some weeks now because the person in charge has not been totally around, and that will be fixed. Okay, so we really want to thank, we want to say a big shout out to everyone who has joined. Mrs. Adenuga, thank you so much. We've known each other for 2 years, thereabout now, and it has been awesome. And, to back up what you said, which has to do with collaboration, I guess what really linked us up was in the aspect of collaboration, preparing our student for IGCSE and all that. And it's
Thank you
really
so much
what
for
to have.
having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And really want to appreciate everyone for joining, Mr. Richie, Mr. Arowarade. So next week, just please having us so we get to have another weekly TBD. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
And you too. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Stay tuned. Bye.